This episode of the Esoteric Order of Roleplayers is brought to you by the generosity of our backers on Patreon. Go to patreon.com/esotericrp to find out how you can become a backer too. We create and broadcast these episodes live on native lands. We acknowledge these are unceded lands, with diverse communities maintaining connections to these places, and recognize their ancestors, their elders both past and present, and future generations. Learn more by visiting the Native American Rights Fund website at narf.org. Space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of me, David Larkins, and I'm going where I've never gone before. Flight Control Officer's Log Supplemental. Having departed Deep Space 4, hopefully not to return for some time, we have been dispatched by Starfleet High Command to investigate and, if necessary, make contact with an alien ship, possibly a generation vessel, on direct course for Earth. Sensor scans indicate this may be an even stranger vessel than we first thought. Okay, and we are back. So, if you're listening to this in real time, it's been a couple weeks since the last Captain's Log entry. I hope you enjoyed our little made RPG one-shot, if you dared to listen to it. I myself have been and gone and returned to Genghis Khan 2024. I think it was their 46th convention, so Genghis Khan 46, I guess, which was a lot of fun. And now I'm kind of trying to get back into the Star Trek Adventures mindset. So I distinctly remember talking with my story producer, aka Des, about the latest developments, and I have a very distinctive memory of her saying, "Do you want to write any of this down?" And I said, no, it's all up here, pointing to my ever trustworthy brain. And, 2 weeks and one convention later, and one made one shot later, I might add, I'm sure it's still all up there. Hopefully it'll sort of come, tumbling out if I shake hard enough, but anyway, we're just gonna endeavor here. We're gonna power through and just see what happens. The broad stroke that I do recall, I recall the overall ideas that we kind of threw around, is to maybe go for a little bit of a comedy beat on this one. That's as much a part of the Star Trek tradition as the deep philosophical questions, the wrenching ethical or personal dilemmas, the investigation of new lives and new civilizations, all that good stuff. Yeah. Every once in a while you need your Trouble with Tribbles episode, or your Harry Mudd episode, or that one where they all dressed up like Robin Hood's Merry Men, something like that. That's very much in keeping with the Star Trek vibe, and I'm just curious if I can actually pull that off in a solo RPG context, which is a fun challenge, I think, but at the same time, no guarantees. We'll try our best. And the other problem, of course, with solo gaming is that you don't have a GM or other players that you can sort of fall back on and and be like, oh, what happened again? So, but just as a quick reminder, reviewing my notes here. So, we've been dispatched to check out this city ship. It is a ship with sentient protists as its inhabitants. They are equivalent in terms of tech to Federation. They are bringing along an offer of flora or fauna, and they are polytheistic anarchists, which is cool. And let's see. Oh, and we have a Klingon ship that is accompanying us. So that was one thing I did look up after the last episode. I just wanted to refresh myself on the honestly somewhat murky history. This is, again, one of those things, I think I've talked about this before, where from an outsider perspective, like, I tend to think of Star Trek as like one of these settings that has like tons of lore, tons of things that are sort of nailed down. And I mean, that is true, but then you kind of find these sort of surprising gaps, you know. And so one of the gaps, not so much a gap, I guess, but one of the things that's like not as clear as I might have thought otherwise is the precise history, let's just say, of how the Federation and the Klingons ended up, you know, allied to each other. You know, it just struck me as a little murky, is all I'm saying. You know, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I just you know, missed some key details there in my review, but that's just how it came across to me. I was expecting maybe a bit more detail, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. So, anyway, that all being said, in our current timeline, in our current year, in the 2050s, or I'm sorry, 2350s, 2352 to be precise. This is a relatively new thing. In fact, I think 2350 might have been the signature of the accord or the treaty that sort of cemented the alliance between the Federation and the Klingons. So, I mean, like, it is definitely early days. So I'm sort of imagining that this is partly like been engineered or arranged sort of as a means of you know, demonstrating, yes, we can work together, you know. So that being said, I should probably quickly generate some details for the Klingon ship as well. And let's see, what else do we need to do before we jump in here? I think that's about it. Like I say, I have some ideas of where to go in terms of this protist city ship and what they're offering. And then, just as like one last reminder, the theme of this whole mission, which again, as a, you know, in case you forgot, is not going well so far. I have 4 fails out of 5 scenes, so this is not great. But you know, that was largely owing to you know, the sort of vision of Kyushu's eventual doom, and Wyn just not having a really great time on board Deep Space 4. So, you know, hey, we can start our star date over whenever we want, and try and, you know, just try and turn things around, I guess, right? But anyway, yeah. So we had sort of a mission theme of research and transform, and the big question, of course, was which direction are we going with that? Is it the Federation researching and the aliens transforming? Are the aliens transforming themselves? Are they transforming us? Are they researching and transforming us? Vice versa, And again, I have some ideas, but we'll just kind of see where it goes. We'll see where it goes. So I just need to grab a handy dandy Klingon name generator, and then we can be off and running. All right, so we have got a Klingon ship, a Cavort class bird of prey. Bird of prey, of course, is your iconic Klingon warship. This a Cavort class is kind of the larger variation. These are like a light cruiser, and it is the IKS Jakala, captained by Captain Kata. So there we go. The magic of random generators comes through again. Okay, so we left off with our intrepid Kyushu crew arriving within sensor range of this alien city ship and beginning to run some scans, and that was our act break. And so let's see, how are we gonna do this? So I guess, the act opens with Wyn reporting to Captain Galvin. Oh, by the way, there should be a link in the show notes for this episode, and I'll have gone back and added a link to prior episodes as well. I went ahead and set up a wiki. I just figured it would be good for myself just to kind of keep track of everything and so forth. But yeah, I went ahead and sourced some character portraits. I found a nice little site that has some character portraits of various actors and actresses in Starfleet uniforms, and such is my commitment to the fidelity of this setting that I only selected the ones where the person had used the first season TOS uniforms with the lower neckline, because we established in the 2350s that was Starfleet uniform. So just saying, it's attention to detail, people. It matters. So anyway, all right. So the scene opens with Wyn reporting back to reporting the sensor readings to Captain Galvin. Basically, what we sort of established last time. And here's the thing. So when you say city ship, of course, you get certain images going through your mind, like, I don't know, something out of like a Sid Mead kind of, 60s, 70s, Omni magazine kind of thing, where it's like, in the 25th century, mankind will live aboard giant orbital ships, that derive all of their energy and requirements from the light of the sun, and yet are big floating panels, or else maybe you think of Wall-E or one of these kind of situations where it's essentially just a big floating Carnival cruise liner or something, but with the Protus thing, I talked about slime molds last time, and we know this is an anarchistic society. They have a titular monarch, which is hilarious, and so I really feel like this isn't really so much a city ship as it is just one gigantic space amoeba, right? However, it can break out into smaller component parts, So like this, again, I talked about the Borg, the sort of resonances with the Borg last time. And, I have not seen the Star Trek movies yet, that have the Borg Queen in them, but I am aware of that character. I'm aware of the point of that character. So it's kind of a similar thing here. Excuse me. Kind of a similar thing here where it's like, we have the amoeba essentially can like create sort of humanoid iterations of itself in order to communicate, right? So I think the first thing we're going to do here, Wyn is reporting back to Captain Galvin. Captain, all sensors indicate that this is a living organism, not so much a starship itself, but just one gigantic colony organism. It shows signs of mass sentience and abundant life. And so I think I have two questions. One, even though like we've established like this species is on par with the Federation as far as technology, so we know they're warp capable. Does that necessarily mean they have comparable technologies, I guess you could say? Like, in other words, do they have transporter technology? If Captain Galvin orders Wyn to see if, we can get them up on screen, if we can hail them, do they have that capacity? Do they have any like technology that would interface with the Federation? So I think on both counts I'm going to go with somewhat. Well, should I go with somewhat probable or probable? Let me roll to see. No. I mean, I could just as well go 50-50, but I'm gonna tilt it slightly in the direction of a yes. Like, yes, they do have transporters. Yes, they do have, subspace communication capabilities. Only because it said it's equivalent to the Federation in terms of technology. And as an added bonus, that just, again, feels very, like, kind of in tune with Star Trek, where it's just kind of like, every planet, almost every planet that, an away team beams down to just happens to have a breathable atmosphere, happens to have tolerable levels of radiation, Every alien species happens to have a ability to communicate with the crew in a way that, makes sense, right? And, of course, there's exceptions to the rule all the time, but I'm just saying, at the end of the day, it's a TV show or a movie, and the writers want to keep things relatively simple. We don't want to, like, get lost too much in the complexities of what would, actually pertain if you encountered an alien species, even if they were equivalent to you in terms of technology. So, having said all that, do they have transporter technology or something equivalent? Somewhat probable. And that's a no. Do they have subspace communication? Somewhat probable. And that's also a no. Well, see, there you go. That's what I get for trying to rationalize things. Interestingly enough, that second one would have been a no, even if I had said highly probable, because I was a 19. And the first one would have been a yes if I had said probable. But nevertheless, it's fine. All right, so Captain Galvin shoots back. Remember, he's still kind of pissed at Wyn. Can you figure out any way to communicate with this, whatever it is? And so Wyn is sort of, punching it off like, well, let me see here. And I think at this point, is the Jakala going to show up? Let's say probable. Yes. Okay, so as Wyn is like trying to, run some frequency scans, to see if these guys are broadcasting on any level. If this giant space amoeba is, maybe hailable. Another, let's see, our trusty ensign, Ensign Kehoe, says, Captain, it appears the Klingon vessel has just come out of warp and is hailing us. And so Galvin says, on screen, And, whoop, up comes Captain Kata. So, again, we have a certain amount of tension here. The Federation and the Klingons are still trying to kind of figure out how are we going to work together. How's this going to actually play out? So let's ask the probability matrix really quickly. Do any of the bridge crew have a major problem with Klingons? And we'll say that is probable. And the answer is yes. Okay. So, let's see. Is it Captain Galvin? 50-50. No. Okay. So Captain Galvin is a model of professionalism, as always, And he says, Captain, glad you could join us. We were just in the process of attempting to make contact with this strange vessel. And Jakala, in the inimitable Klingon style, simply says, "Have we considered sending an away team to talk personally with the people aboard this ship, or with the beings aboard this ship?" And Captain Galvin says, "That may not be possible, Captain. It appears to be one large colony of organisms rather than a starship proper." So one of the things I identified last time as a potential interesting complication is that, the Federation ship is here really to make contact, and the Klingon ship might be more interested in just, destroying the vessel and saying that's good enough, especially if there's a perceived threat from the vessel. So here's where it gets interesting, because I feel like the way that the alien vessel is going to interact with our Federation and Klingon crews is going to kind of determine that in a way and sort of drive the narrative. All right, so we know that these beings can't communicate in traditional means, and that makes sense. That actually makes sense, because this whole thing's supposed to be a puzzle. Yes, we're going to try and move towards a more comedy thing, maybe in Act 3, but Act 2 is really more about solving this puzzle, right? How do we interact with this ship? Just thinking here, because I see a few potential outcomes here. It could be that with the arrival of these ships, the alien ship is gonna just try and evade. Just be like, I don't like having these other vessels so close. We gotta continue on our mission to Earth. Which, again, that's sort of the big question, right? Why is this like, amoeba colony heading towards Earth? You would think, right? You would think that it's going to be something sinister. But that might be the twist. For once, there's an alien ship heading towards Earth that doesn't, want to destroy it, either passively or actively, right? So again, we got to keep the research and transform elements forefront in our minds. Now, something else amoebas do, of course, is they expand. They launch pseudopods, right, to capture nearby organisms. There we go. I think that's how we're going to do it. So we've got one of two possibilities here. Either this ship's going to go to warp, and then we'll have a fun little chase scene going on, or it's going to launch pseudopods to grab the Kyushu and Chikala and pull them in. Because if you don't have transporters and you don't have subspace communications, how else are you going to talk, right? So, we'll leave out the probability matrix, but I'm going to say, for the sake of a fun story, that it's probable that this ship is going to launch pseudopods at the 2 starships. So, yes, quite so. All right, so the 2 captains are talking when suddenly all the proximity sensors start going off, and and Kerensky, jumps up and says, "Captain, they're attacking us!" And before we know it, we get this outside shot of this, big old amoeba, and if this is next gen era, of course we've got somewhat dubious CGI, and it's that kind of blobby liquid mercury kind of thing that was so hot in the 90s, as these 2 pseudopods go shooting out and capturing the 2 starships. I don't really think there's a need to roll. First of all, I'm not even sure what the hell I would roll for that. Secondly, I'm loath to engage with the Starship combat rules again so soon. I know last time I said I was going to look around online. I did. I didn't really find anyone talking about fixes or house rules or errata for the Starship combat rules in Captain's Log, which leads me to believe that either I'm an idiot and I, didn't understand the rules myself, or there just haven't been a lot of people playing using the Starship combat rules, or the ones who are doing it are coming from Star Trek Adventures, and there's some kind of unwritten stuff in the Captain's Log rules that if you had played Starship Adventures you would intuitively understand, but if you're someone like me whose first exposure to Star Trek Adventures is through Captain's Log, I'm totally lost, right? I'm what am I not seeing? Oh, I had to have played Star Trek Adventures. I suspect it's the latter, right? Because it is very difficult to design for the novice when you're already sort of immersed in a game, right? Anyway, that being said, the other reason I don't think this really needs a roll is just because it's completely unexpected. It's just out of nowhere, and you can't even really take evasive action. If something like that happens, right? So just zoop, block, captures him, starts pulling him in. So that being said, I do think there's a chance for a roll here, because Captain Galvin would no doubt be ordering evasive maneuvers. So Ensign Kehoe, who is piloting at the moment, is going to try and punch in the impulse drive engines, and of course Kyushu does have an improved impulse drive. So this would obviously be engines. Plus con, so that's a 13 or less. If we roll 3 or less, that kicks in the improved impulse drive. Alright, so I got 1 success on that. Okay. No special outcomes, no special advantages, momentum, or threat generated there. Okay. With the 1 success, so I think the Chikala gets pulled in regardless, just for plot purposes, No, I shouldn't do that. I shouldn't be so arbitrary. I gotta go to the probability matrix, right? Okay, so does the Chikala escape? I'm gonna say improbable. There's nothing that says I can't weight the results in favor of what I want. Alright, so no, the Chikala does not escape. Okay. So the Chikala gets pulled in. Kyushu got 1 success. Now, if I had generated momentum, or if I had activated the improved impulse drive, I kind of feel like that would have been an opportunity to make a totally clean escape, right? Instead, so what we have here is the T'Challa gets just pulled into the amoeboid entirely. Kyushu is, firing its impulse drive, and so it's still trapped in the pseudopod, but it's not been pulled in all the way. Okay. Thankfully, I can mark that down as a success on the first scene. Thank God. Alright, so just as a reminder, we have 4 failures, now 2 successes. You have to have more successes than failures to have a milestone and get some character improvement going on. So, but we're halfway through the mission here, so, there's time. There is time. Okay, so that being said, as we move into the next scene, we're at Code Red. What do they call it? That thing. Anyway, all the red lights are on, and so the klaxons are blaring and so forth, and I have this like mental image of the goo, the protists, the amoeboids, sort of like infiltrating into the ship. All right, so let's just go. This isn't Starship combat, for God's sake, but but what we've got is, I think, just kind of a struggle. We've got a struggle on our hands, right? So, let's see what we can do here. So, it's kind of like the ship's shields and overall structure. So that's structure of 9, security 1. Okay, so the amoebas are trying to come into the ship itself. And so let's just see. We'll this next scene will be sort of that fight as all the ship's warning sensors go off that alien organisms attempting to penetrate the hull of the ship. Okay, so I got 1 success for us. Good. 10 or less. Okay, that's 1 for them. So far, no momentum, no threats. 1 for us. Okay. I like how I'm shaking the dice before I put it on the dice tower, like as if that makes a difference. Okay, 1 for them. It's 2-2. So whoever wins this next roll. Hey, look at that. I won and generated a momentum. Woo! All right. So we've got a momentum. All right, so despite their best efforts, the space amoebas have been unable to breach the outer defenses of Kyushu. So let's think about what that means. Well, I mean, first of all, obviously we get another successful scene. Whew. Okay, so 3-4 in favor of successes to failures. Okay. But we have a bit of a détente here. We have a bit of a standoff, right? So the amoeba ship has captured Kyushu, but has not been able to, breach its defenses. And however, the Klingon ship has been compromised, right? So let's do a roll there. Let's see here. Has the Klingon ship been invaded by these amoeba creatures? I'll say that's somewhat probable. And that's a no. Okay, so they're holding out as well, even though they're within the belly of the beast, so to speak. So maybe the next scene is we get Captain Kata back up on the screen, and of course, there's a lot of interference and static coming through, and they're also on their emergency settings. The bridge of the ship, looks like an old submarine, under attack by depth charges or something, and so Galvin says, "Kata, thank God! I thought you were lost for good." And Kata says, "Not so easily. Our birds of prey are made of stronger stuff than that. However, the enemy appears to be attempting to penetrate our defenses on all fronts, and I do not know how long we can hold out." And Galvin, let's see. What is Galvin's reaction to this? So again, we have okay. So at this point, Kata says, "We are preparing to defend ourselves and fire all weapon systems in an attempt to destroy the vessel from within." Does Galvin think that's a good idea? Somewhat improbable, I would say. But he does. He does. Okay. So he says, "Do whatever it takes to get out of there, Kata." I don't think Galvin is, this guy's sus, He's he's a little sus to me. I don't know. He's got some interesting ethics. But yeah, Galvin says, "Do whatever it takes to get out of there, Kata." So, all right. So there we go. There you have it. So I think we're gonna see how that goes here. So we're gonna do another quick resolution as the Klingon vessel opens up. And I think in this case, we're gonna go best out of 5, because we're fighting a city ship, for God's sake. I don't know. I mean, dare I do the starship combat again? Maybe. I know I was just saying that I don't want to do it, but at the very least, in terms of tracking damage or stuff. But see, here's the thing. I will tip my hand at this point. Here's what I'm thinking about for our amoeba friends. I think that the transform thing is key. I'm going to assume that most, if not all of you who are listening, are familiar, or at least might remember, that Futurama episode where Fry eats an egg salad sandwich from a space truck stop and gets infested with these parasites, these worms. But the worms are actually helping him. They're exercising his muscles and neurons and stuff, and giving him the strength of Hercules and the flexibility of Gumby.
Gumbercules! I love that guy!
And so I'm thinking it's something similar to that, because remember, the thing they had to share was flora and fauna. And as protists, that's kind of the same, one and the same. They're not quite animals, they're not quite plants. I mean, they're not either. They're their own thing, right? Because they don't fall into either of those categories. So in that sense, they are neither and they are both, right? So if they're here to research and transform, and I think that maybe that's why they're heading towards Earth. Why Earth specifically? We don't know that yet. I don't really have any good ideas, and maybe we'll never know. Maybe that'll be key to solving this whole mystery. Maybe it'll barely feature, right? We'll find that out. That being said, I think they're more than happy to also perform some research and transformations of their own on anyone they can get their hands on, but it's a beneficial thing. So again, the theme is fascinating to me because the whole theme, not just of this mission, but of the captain's log story we've been creating so far, beginning with Wyn being a trans character, right? And then, we've had psionic entities trying to take over the minds of the Kyushu's crew in order to stow away and escape from this collapsing planet. We've had the Borg, and now we've got this, amoeba peoples who are gonna, climb aboard as well. So at the risk of, it's like, I'm kind of on the fence, like, is this repetitive or is this just thematic? Are we kind of creating an overarching theme? And just to make myself feel better, I'm going to go with the second one. But if you happen to agree with that, please let me know. If you don't agree with that, then keep it to yourself. But anyway, no, I'm kidding. Whatever you feel, one way or the other, or some other way about it, and you want to share, please share. That being said, for now, we're just going to kind of roll with this. And, of course, so that's the twist, right, is that the amoeba creatures, they can't communicate through subspace. They communicate by sort of, merging with other organisms and then sort of benefiting them. It's like a symbiotic relationship. Personally, for myself, some of you may know that I played a lot of Rifts, the Rifts RPG back in the 90s. And that was one of the technologies in that setting where it was called biowizardry. And you could get these like various symbiotes and other, organisms or entities kind of implanted into your body. So it was almost like, it was like biopunk, right? It was like, instead of getting like a cybernetic arm or whatever, becoming a cyborg, you become a bioborg, This is that kind of concept. So I'm leaning in that direction. And that's kind of why I've been rolling to see, like, are these amoebas penetrating into these starships? And so far the answer is no. But we've also got our monarch, So that's going to come up. But anyway, let's go ahead and see what happens with our bird of prey, the Jacala, as it opens fire from inside of this giant space amoeba. All of this might be pointless, right? Because it might blow the thing up. Oh, yes. Anyway, before I start doing that, so the reason why I'm hesitant to use like a ship damage table in the traditional sense of the starship combat is that this amoeba is not trying to hurt these starships, right? It's just trying to communicate with them in the only way it can. So I think, boom, 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 boom. Okay. See, this is the fun part of this, right? I'm going to be honest with you. Like, every single one of these episodes has been a struggle because I'm just sitting here, just sort of riffing, rolling dice, and from any 1 minute to the next, I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing. But that's the point, right? And so the fun part is when I'm kind of like, I guess I'll do this, and then at the last minute I'm like, oh no, wait, this is actually way more interesting. So I just realized I have that point of momentum. You can spend the point of momentum to generate a story advantage. So let's refocus on the protagonist, on the nominal protagonist. So our captain, as usual, is kind of being a dick, and he's like, yeah, sure, just give him all you got. Let's see if you can blow this space amoeba out of the water. Yeah, just let's see if you can blow it apart from inside, right? When suddenly Wyn, little light bulb goes off over her head, and she says, Captain, wait, what if this thing is just trying to communicate with us? I'm not able to raise, because remember, she's been trying to raise them on a hailing frequency this whole time. I'm not able to raise them on a hailing frequency. I don't think they have the ability to talk to us in that way. Maybe they're just trying to come on board so that they can communicate with us. Okay, boom. So, there's going to be 2 challenges here. First, Wyn has to win over, Captain Galvin, right? And then Captain Galvin has to, convince Captain Kata, not to open fire. That's going to be far more difficult. But if we can at least get Captain Galvin... Actually, they're both going to be difficult because, honestly, again, Captain Galvin is pissed at Wyn. So I'm sure he's, less likely to want to listen to her. But that being said, I think this is going to be presence plus command. So that's a 12 or less. And I think her focus of empathy would apply here. Unfortunately, my command, which is the operative discipline, is just a 2. So I'd have to roll a 2 or less to generate a focus advantage. But nevertheless, let's see what we can do. 12 or less overall. I rolled a 2! I rolled a 2! Okay. I rolled a 2. Okay, so just the 1 success, but I generated an advantage off that focus. I believe, if memory serves, that it is largely still... It is like generating a momentum, but let's just see. They immediately create an advantage or roll on the advantage table. That advantage is now activated and can be woven into the narrative. Okay. So, I think the advantage that we're generating here is that I will give Captain Galvin momentum in trying to convince Captain Kata not to open fire. So Galvin meets Wyn's eyes. They lock eyes for a moment, and he's suddenly like, "Oh my God, she's right." And so as we see Captain Kata about to give the order to fire, Captain Galvin says, "Kata, wait!" And let's see what happens. So let's see. We've got comms plus command of 12 or less with momentum. Meaning what exactly? He can spend that momentum in order to, I believe, give himself success. Let's see here. Has been a couple weeks. Bear with me. Let's see here. Okay, so a reroll. That's what it was. Yeah. Okay. So I can spend my momentum to reroll a single d20. All right. So, like I said, this is going to be hard. This is a Klingon we're talking about, right? This is a Klingon under attack, is how he would perceive it. So I'm going to make this difficulty 2, but I can spend that momentum to give myself a reroll. So, yeah. Let's go. Here we go. 12 or less. Okay, I rolled a 12 and an 18. So I'm going to re-roll that 18. And another 12. Okay, hey, good enough. Kata, against his better judgment, holds, and he looks at Galvin. And he says... he's not happy, right? He just says... I don't see this. This is where my ignorance shows through. He curses in Klingon. How about that? And he says, "What? What is it, Captain?" And Galvin, thinking quickly on his feet, knowing that he's dealing with a Klingon and he can't just necessarily appeal to his, angels of his better nature or whatever, says. If you fire from inside the being, it might destroy your ship and ours as well. And Kata narrows his eyes and he says, "That could be, Captain, but I cannot think of any better way to extricate ourselves from this dilemma." All right. Sweet. So, we're now 4-4. We've got 4 successes against 4 failures. Things are turning around. We're doing well. We've got 2 more scenes in this act. So as I say, I feel like the sort of comedy part is Act 3. So if we're doing the kind of, amoebas transforming people thing, that's where the comedy can come in, right? Because maybe it changes their personalities, that sort of thing. So Act 2 is more about like figuring out what the hell's going on. So let me think about this. All right. Well, in keeping with wanting to center the narrative on our protagonist and Galvin being pissed at Wyn, I think it's time for a spacewalk. All right. So Galvin says to Captain Kata, "Don't worry, Captain. I think I might have an idea. You hold tight. Signal us if anything changes." And Kata kind of gives an irritated snort, and he pieces out. He logs off. And then Galvin turns to Wyn and he says, "That was some quick thinking, Lieutenant. I think you might have just saved a bunch of lives, and not just our own. I think you've also volunteered yourself to go out there and communicate with these entities." And Wyn swallows hard and says, "Aye, Captain." So, we're going to, switch to the sort of shuttle bay where Wyn is being outfitted in, another environmental suit like we had in a previous mission, and Captain Galvin is there, and our let's see, who else would be there to cheer Wyn on? Our science officer, Lieutenant Commander Timir. Our medical officer, of course, Lieutenant Frakes. So, of course, Wyn wants to do very well on this to impress him. And, so basically the shuttle bay doors open up with a great and ominous sliding door noise, and we can see out beyond the open bay doors just this massive sort of like undulating, oscillating, again like 90s CGI sort of liquid texture, sort of and maybe it's sort of it's almost like it's breathing, there's an almost rhythm to it, and of course it's being held back by the shields. So Captain Galvin is saying to Wyn, "You understand your orders, Lieutenant?" And Wyn says, "Aye, sir. I am to step outside the bay doors. You will close them behind me and then lower the shields. And then I am to attempt to communicate with this organism directly, as it seems to be the only way that it can effectively do so." And so Lieutenant Frakes is, shaking his head, and he says, "I just think this is awfully risky, Captain. I don't know. This, are you?" And he says to Wyn, "Are you sure you want to do this?" And she looks into his beautiful blue eyes and says, "Of course. I was born for this, Lieutenant." And with that, she turns and begins inelegantly clomping towards the open bay, and so she passes beyond the doors, which shut behind her with a clank, and then the shield is lowered, and the goo comes in and envelops her. And so she is looking all around. She can see now, like right up on the visor of her helmet, untold millions of individual organisms. I'm thinking like they're individual organisms that are large enough. They're not microscopic amoebas, So they are large enough for her to actually discern. But then they draw away from her, creating this sort of bubble, and stepping out from this mass of protists is this sort of humanoid shape. And yes, this is just like that Futurama episode, because there is a worm king, if we recall. He's got a little crown and everything. But I think this is a humanoid figure of comparable size to Wyn, and maybe even it looks a little bit like Wyn, right? At least facially, because it's just sort of mirroring her, and it speaks, it vocalizes, and it says, "Greetings. We are Uwame Ogopa." So there's a very interesting little alien name generator in the back of this book, and you basically just roll to see how many syllables you're dealing with, and then what order syllables, from columns A, B, C, and D that you roll on. So it might be like B, A, C, D, so you do roll on column B first, and then column A, and then column C, and then column D. So that's what I got. I got Uwame Ogopa is the name of this ship, the name of this species. Are they one and the same? I think so. We mean no harm nor threat to you or your companion vessel. We are en route to your home planet of Earth on an important mission. To which Wyn replies, and of course, obviously she's on open comms, right? So everyone can hear this, right? So Wyn replies, "If you mean us no harm, then why did you capture us?" And the Slime King says, "It is the only way that we can communicate with you. Although we possess similar technology to yours, we do not have equivalent ways of interacting. I myself am simply taking this shape and, in fact, am merely the designated representative of the billions of other organisms that make up this larger entity that you might call a starship, but we simply call ourselves." And so Wyn says, "What is your goal? Why do you want to visit Earth? Why do you want to communicate with us?" And the Slime King says, "I believe that we can reach a mutually beneficial exchange between our species. And Earth seemed the most likely planet to accept our offer. You humans are well known for your adaptability and changeability and openness to new ideas and new ways of living, are you not?" To which, of course, Wyn says, I can't deny that. And so the Slime King says, our offer is merely one of exchange of advantageous adaptations. If you would permit me to show you, I can demonstrate on you, and you can go back to your crew and show them. Okay, so here's where things get a little interesting, right? So Wyn, of course, has a daring of 10. She has a science of 13. Let's look at some of her other features here. The crew comes first, and sensors can't tell you everything. Those are her 2 remaining values. She has empathy as a focus. And, of course, one of her, she's human, but she's also trans. Those are her 2 traits. So I think when we take all of that together, now, again, I'm not entirely sure if, with my main character, am I using the probability matrix on myself, or am I just free to make my own decisions, right? I think all those things taken together, I'm still going to go with the probability matrix, but I'm going to say it's highly probable that Wyn is going to agree to this. So, 18 or less, yes. That's a 3, so yes. So Wyn thinks about it for a second, and then detaches her helmet from her spacesuit. Since we're within this bubble of oxygen that's been provided, takes the helmet off and says, do what you need to do. And at that point, the amoeboid, sort of collapses in on her again, and then, we cut to commercial, right? All right, so the next scene, we are, I think, in the medical bay, and Wyn is, lying on one of the beds, but looks perfectly fine, and says, "I'm telling you, there's nothing wrong with me." And Lieutenant Frakes is running these scans over her, and so let's see what his scans turn up here. Let's see here. Yep, sensor plus medicine, 12 or less. Oh, how interesting. So I got a 12, but I also generated a threat. I like that. Okay, so he turns to Captain Galvin and says, I think Lieutenant Cedino is correct, Captain. I'm not turning up anything unusual in terms of her vital signs. However, there is some kind of a foreign body or foreign organism in her system at the moment. However, it does not appear to be causing any kind of an adverse reaction. All right, so I generated that threat. Let's go to the threat table. Let's see what we got here. What are we dealing with? Because I think we could. We're coming up on Act 3 here. I think we could use a little shake up, right? See what happens. See what's going on. And let's see if I can actually find the threat table. How about that? That's quite a concept. Okay, there we go. All right, so Oh no, that's advantages and complications. Let's see. Okay. There we go. Okay. Momentum spends are here. Threat spends. Okay. Threat spend matrix will give you an initial direction for what kind of complication you have gained by spending your threat. First, roll in the threat spend theme matrix, then roll in the subsequent matrices to get more specificity about the nature of the theme. Also, you can simply choose the entry that makes the most sense for the circumstances for your game, or you can roll more than once if the first result does not fit. So, we've got gravity, we've got hostile alien entity, psionic incident, ship in distress, subspace, systems failure, or temporal anomaly. God, no. We've had enough temporal anomalies. Systems failure could be one, in that the ship is beginning to fail under, like being surrounded by this amoeboid. Subspace, ship in distress, no, we're already in distress. Psionic incident, possibly. Hostile alien entity, we're kind of, and then gravity. Interesting. One of them's just too much gravity. All right, so let's see here. Looking at sonic incidents, and here's a good one. Mutation or augmentation resulting in new telepathic abilities. Booyah! Okay, so that's what we're gonna go with. So Dr. Frakes is saying, like, there's these foreign organisms in her system, but they don't appear to be causing any problems. And suddenly in the minds of Lieutenant Frakes and Captain Galvin, they can hear Wyn's voice, and she's saying, "That's right. There's absolutely nothing to worry about. Everything is perfectly under control." To which they, of course, gasp and freak out a little bit. And so I say that's going to be the act break there. Lieutenant Frakes got a successful roll on that diagnostic, so we'll call that a success. And so that is going to take us into Act 3 and the possible comedy. We'll find out, I guess. Okay, so I don't think there's any need for a supplemental log at the moment. But let's see, where do we want to go from here? I think the next logical step would be to check in on the Klingon ship and see how they're doing. So first things first is, although Captain Galvin was able to, win over Captain Kata in the moment, what are the odds that it's going to actually last, right? Is Kata just going to get increasingly impatient and just, start second-guessing Galvin's judgment? Maybe their own science officer is like, "Sir, I do not think that if we open fire, it will pose any danger to either ship." Something like that, right? So, has Captain Kata changed his mind? Let's say that's somewhat probable. Still a no. All right, so Kata, says, "Be that as it may, we must not endanger our allies." So, okay. Now we have to see, have our friends, the Wame Ogopa, manage to get into the Klingon vessel, right? And so we can do that in a couple ways. We can run it as a contest. I can simply roll on the probability matrix. I think we'll just go with the probability matrix at this point. And we'll say it's probable. We'll say it's probable that the Ogopa have penetrated the Chakala's defenses. Okay. Indeed they have. So, back on Kyushu, Wyn has demonstrated telepathic abilities. So I think we're let's see. I don't think Wyn would necessarily be returned to the bridge, but yeah. So we're still in sick bay when Captain Galvin gets notified that Captain Chakala wishes to speak with him, and so he tells Frakes to keep an eye on Cedino, and he departs for the bridge. So back up on the bridge, Galvin brings Kata up on the big screen, and so I think at this point, we see a very strange scene indeed, in which Kata and his bridge crew are all sort of smiling and laughing, and Kata says, Captain Galvin, so good to see you well. I am glad that you are still thriving, sir. Might I invite you to beam aboard our ship so that we can meet in person? And so Galvin, thinks, okay, this is weird. He and Kerensky exchange a look, and he says, well, thank you very much, Captain, but I'm not sure if our transporter beams will be able to penetrate the intervening material that separates our ships. We can barely receive you on our transmitter here, as I'm sure you're aware. And Kata says, "Oh, that is no problem whatsoever, Captain. The Wame Ogopa have informed me that it is perfectly safe. They will ensure that." And Galvin says, "Oh, they've informed you. How is that possible? Are they? Have you made contact with them somehow?" And Kata says, yes, all of our crew have made contact with them now, and we are all the better for it. And he turns to the others and he says, "I've never felt so good. I don't know about the rest of you." And they're all like, "Hoy, yeah!" Punching their fists in the air, stomping their feet, And he says, "You see, encountering the Owame Ogopa has been the greatest thing that could have possibly happened. I don't think any of us want to necessarily leave, certainly not anytime soon." And, the bridge crew are like, "No, absolutely not." And so we get into another one of these classic Trek tropes, which is our sort of main characters, our heroes, if you will, encounter some kind of alien entity or being that, somewhat objectively offers to make their life better in some way. Like, imagine the entire crew of the Kyushu having, the strength of Hercules and the flexibility of Gumby, and I mean, come on, right? But the thing that always comes up in those episodes especially in TOS, is like Kirk's always like, the killjoy, right? He's always the one who's like, no, we can't give in, we can't allow ourselves to be tempted. And I mean, I guess the sort of underlying message there is like, if it seems too good to be true, it probably is. There's going to be some kind of a hidden cost, But there's also kind of a reluctance to allow your sort of core sense of identity to be undermined or otherwise changed by an outside agent, So I think there's that as well, that it might interfere with your duties as a Starfleet officer, right? If you kind of give into this sort of stuff, it's this bit of a slippery slope argument, I guess, So all that taken together, I think it's improbable. Nay, it is highly improbable that Captain Galvin's going to fall for any of this nonsense. And no, of course not. So Captain Galvin politely refuses Captain Kata's offer, and he says, perhaps a little later, Captain. We are currently working out some issues of our own here, and so Captain Kata says, well, at the very least, you should agree to host their king as a sign of your good faith. That is what we did, and we have no regrets. And Captain Galvin says, "Oh well, in fact, one of our crew has already communicated with the Ogopa King, and yes, they are the very model of hospitality and agreeability. I do agree with that." And Captain Kata says, "Well, very well then. I had no idea. Well, in that case, we will sign off for now, but please, when you are ready to come visit, hail us and we will welcome you." And then he signs off. So, what can we do with this? So that was a scene. I'm going to call that a success only in the sense that Galvin, resisted the urge to, head over to the Klingon ship. There we go. Okay, so back in sickbay. All right, so I don't know if this will be like a comedy episode quite so much as... So I like the idea of kind of bringing this full circle, though. So it's not exactly a comedy episode, but I do like the idea of bringing it full circle in a kind of a more lighthearted way. So we've already had some festive Klingons, which is always entertaining. It's always entertaining when Klingons kind of, break character a little bit and have a good time. But I just saw some footage of Michael Dorn in full Worf makeup, kind of an outtake, because he was, sort of cracking up from some off camera antics from some of the other actors. So I'm definitely picturing that. Anyway, so we've had a little bit of that in terms of lightheartedness, but also I just think, the Deep Space 4 stuff was like so. It was grim. It was emotionally wrenching for Wyn, and so I think this might be an opportunity. She's alone with Lieutenant Frakes. What can we do with that? So remember, our protist friends are going to be, the whole idea here is they're going to be helping out. So don't know if like that means let's do a little GM ruling here. Part of doing these solo games is you're constantly sort of switching hats between being a player and being a GM. So let's do a little GM ruling here. Let's say that with those protists in your system, the Agopa in your system, you generate momentum even on a single success. Okay, only for like personal rolls, of course. Not for ship rolls. So back in sickbay, Lieutenant Frakes is saying like, well, Lieutenant Cedino, I think there's really no reason for me to hold you here. You're free to go, but perhaps you might want to head back to your quarters and just take some time to sit and integrate everything that happened. And Wyn says, yeah, I think that's fine. But before I go, there is something I've been wanting to tell you for a long time, Lieutenant. And he turns around. He's like, "Oh, what's that?" With his little cocky smile. His twinkling eyes. So Wyn is going to. She's not going to tell him her feelings. She's just going to let him feel her feelings telepathically. So that's going to be I think presence, not necessarily insight, presence, plus command, I think, yeah? Okay. So 12 or less. Okay. So I got the one success, so that's going to generate a momentum. I'll spend that right away to create a story advantage. So with the one success, Wyn successfully communicates to Lieutenant Frakes her feelings. And he gets that loud and clear. And so I think with the advantage, he feels the same. Feeling is mutual. And so, yeah, I think they just sort of exchange a very significant look, and then he just takes a few steps over and pulls her in, and they share a kiss. So there we go. We'll call that a success. And so I think on top of that, of course, if they're kissing, I think Frakes just took on board some of the Ogopa himself. So, yeah. So now he's got some of the protists in his system as well. All right. So that happened. So we will move on to the next scene. I'm finding this can be sometimes the trickiest part of these. Is where do we how do we want to frame things? So we've got 3 more scenes to go. So we have to resolve the issue with the ship going towards Earth, and whether that's going to happen, and whether that's a bad thing. So I think we'll reserve that for the last couple scenes. So for this next scene, we're back on the bridge. As Wyn and Harrison come aboard the bridge from the turbo lift. And are they holding hands? I mean, so one thing we've sort of established with the Klingons is that if you have some of these symbiotes, we'll just call them, in your system, it sort of elevates your mood. Maybe it sort of it has a sort of euphoric effect, on your overall emotions. So, are they holding hands? Let's say that is probable. And they are. So they're holding hands, they're smiling. Now Captain Galvin has just gotten off the horn with, Captain Kata. So he's going to be extra on guard for something like that. It's not going to be, it's not going to take him, by surprise to see that. And in fact, he's probably going to go, oh no. So he stands up and he says, "What is the meaning of this? Why are you holding hands?" And Wyn says, "Oh, Captain, let's see, what's his name? Oh, Jace." That's his first name. Jace, it's fine. It's fine. Harrison and I, we're in love. It's as simple as that." And Frakes is like, "It's true. We are in love. We've been in love for a long time." And it really just... It took an encounter with these wonderful little symbiotic creatures to tell us that, and Galvin turns to Lieutenant Commander Timir, science officer, and says we need to get these two quarantined immediately. And Timir nods, and sort of simultaneously, Kerensky signals to security officer Krisar, and says, escort those two back to sickbay and make sure they're quarantined, and keep a healthy distance from them yourself, Krisar. And so the Cation nods and walks towards Wyn and Harrison, and the two of them, they're fine. They're fine with that. They say, "Oh, certainly, we understand. We're not here to frighten anyone, of course." And then I think Wyn looks at Krisar and sends a little telepathic message / empathic burst. Just kind of saying like, "There's nothing to be afraid of." And if you'd like, we can show you what this is like, So again, we'll go with presence and command, and let's just see what happens. And remember, we just need one success to generate a momentum. And not only did I get 2 successes, but I also triggered a focus for Wyn's empathy. And we generated a momentum. Hot dog. Okay. So let's see. I think for the momentum, let's roll on the momentum advantage table. I think for the focus, we'll just generate a story advantage in the form of Krisar kind of thinking like, maybe it's not that bad, So let's see here. We'll pull up the momentum spends. Okay, let's see here. Well, we've got the friendly aliens table, of course. Let's see here. Okay. Romantic interlude. Interesting. Is there anything else? We've got new technology. Possible. That's definitely possible. And we've got refuge. Not so much. No. Okay. Let's see. Let's look at friendly alien encounter. So we've got advanced medical help. So I had speculated last session that, perhaps what the Ogopa can offer is like some kind of cure, for one of the few medical conditions that Starfleet medical tech can't really handle very well. Let's see what else. So that's a possibility. Deliver good news. I mean, okay. Help with scientific breakthrough, possibly. Offer additional personnel, not really. Offer hidden knowledge, Offer helpful technology, Offer raw materials and resources. Offer the use of a ship. Offer to mediate conflict or romantic interlude. Okay, so I think of those. I mean, there's advanced medical help, there's hidden knowledge, scientific breakthrough. So those are some possibilities. New technology. Let's see what we've got here. So we've got things like communication upgrade or engine efficiency improved that don't really fit, I don't think. New medical procedure. Structural integrity, transporter range boosted. Yeah, no, those don't really. So I think friendly alien encounter for sure. And I kind of like offer hidden knowledge. I'm just not sure exactly what that could be. Also, help with the scientific breakthrough would make sense as well. Okay. All right. So, I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, and we'll mark that down as a success, by the way. At the end of the day, what I need to decide here as we're coming up on the end of this mission is, do we go with your standard Star Trek ending where, although the crew seem to think, because essentially what happens is Krysar escorts, Wyn and Lieutenant Frakes off the bridge, and then like the next thing we know, Krysar is like laughing with them, in the bar, like they're all just sitting around like sharing a drink and laughing, So, so Krysar has now taken some of these symbiotes into her system as well. So we need to decide: are we going for the standard Star Trek ending of the captain knows best, and you can't do this, like we got to go back to how things were? Or is this like an interesting little shift in our own version of Star Trek continuity, where the crew of the Kyushu all take these symbiotes on board, and then the ship is allowed to continue on to Earth, and then Earth sort of integrates with the Ogopa. You know what I mean? Like, is it that kind of a situation? Is there a hidden catch? I mean, we rolled that these guys are friendly. We didn't roll that there's any kind of subterfuge going on. It's the research and transform are the themes. So there is a certain transformation that's occurring. So I'm wondering, and then we've got the advantage here of like help with scientific breakthrough or hidden knowledge, whatever we want to do there, Offer of hidden knowledge. I like that a lot. That's so interesting to me. Oh gosh. So we've got 2 scenes left. I think what it's going to have to come down to, we're just going to have to play it out and see where Galvin lands on this. But so we've got our trio in the sort of the mess, the Kyushu's officers' mess, and I think maybe Galvin sends Kerensky to just check up on things, and so she goes to the sick bay and sees that nobody's there. So then she starts searching the ship. She lets Galvin know what's up. She summons a couple security, ensigns or whatever, security personnel. So she's got a couple of these guys backing her up, and they come into the mess hall, and she's like, "You're here? You're drinking? What is going on?" And Wyn says, oh, Verena, have a seat, join us, So I think maybe that's the thing, is that, like, there's some breakdown in discipline that's going on, right? We're not respecting rank, we're just doing whatever the hell we want, we're drinking while on duty, etc. As I take a sip. But, yeah, so I'm still, like, my mind, like, the gears are still turning in terms of, like, what is this hidden knowledge? Other than, I mean, it could be something existential, like, the hidden knowledge is that the magic was in you all along, like the hidden knowledge is just, like, a deep personal insight about yourself, So, for instance, Frakes realizing that he actually, had feelings for Wyn, and then acting on it. Maybe Kreesar is having some insights as to why they're so angry all the time, or something like that. Not that we've really explored Kreesar's personality that much, but we'll just say maybe they're angry all the time, and now they're understanding why. So Kerensky. Okay, so I think it's like, let's say, highly probable that Kerensky is going to order all three put under arrest. So that is 18 or less. Yes, that is that is success. So as the two security officers move forward, I'm going to say that Wyn sends out a little telepathic signal, just saying, like, are you sure you want to do that? Wouldn't you rather sit down and have a drink with us? So again, presence plus command. I've been pretty lucky on these rolls, because it's a 12 or less, which is not great, but let's see. Ha! I knew it. I jinxed it. I jinxed the hell out of it. So not only did I fail, but I also rolled a threat. I love that. That's awesome. Okay, so I generated a threat. And so that's a fail on that scene, as we cut to the Frakes, Kreesar, and Cedino all in their own cells in the brig, So this actually sets up an interesting transition to the next mission, because I was already thinking that basically I wanted to do a JAG trial for the next mission, just for Wyn's insubordination, and here we have yet more insubordination to pile on top. So I'm actually totally comfortable with this outcome, and I think there's really just this last scene, which is going to sort of resolve how Captain Galvin, who obviously is like, that's enough of this foolishness, how he's going to handle breaking away from the from the Owame Ogopa, and heading back towards Earth, ahead of it, right? So maybe the Owame Ogopa itself can only do like warp 3 or something. It's not terribly speedy, and so Kyushu is going to race ahead to bring a warning that this weird alien vessel that's going to take over the minds of everyone and make them really insubordinate, so it's on its way, it's coming this way, so yeah, I like that. So really we just have to roll and see. Now, of course, we could also have an outcome in that the Kyushu fails to get away, fails to break out of that pseudopod, and then the Owame Ogopa just shows up in orbit around Earth with 2 captive vessels, So, let's do that. Let's find out. Let's find out if this is a 2-parter or not, Well, it is going to be a 2-parter, but find out what kind of 2-parter it is. So, Visions of Future Past, Part 1. All right. Okay, so which honestly, the hidden knowledge. See that gives me a chance to think some more about like what is this hidden knowledge, because maybe it is some other stuff that's like plays off of that that episode title, Visions of Future Past. Okay. All right. So let's just do one last sort of extended contest here, and we'll do best 2 out of 3 like we did before. And we've got the engines plus con 13 or less, improved impulse drive, and then we still have this threat to spend. Okay, so when it comes to a contest, let's see here. When it comes to a contest, we have the usual spends for a threat, but we can also spend the threat to add 1 hit, remove 1 hit from opposition, make the next task difficulty 2, or create a complication. Okay, so what are we doing? 13 or less. Here we go. Alright, so I got 1 success for Kyushu, so 1-0. Okay, what is that? That is a 4. Alright, so that is 2 successes. However, I'm going to spend my threat to remove 1 of those. So that just gives us the 1. But it does also generate a momentum. Okay. There we go. And all right. Okay, so that's really interesting. Let's see, that was a success, but I also rolled a threat, but I also have a momentum. So I'm going to spend the momentum to negate the threat, and then that success makes it 3. So the Kyushu breaks free from the pseudopod that's been holding it. Sadly forced to leave the IKS Jakala trapped within the giant space amoeba. But this is for the best, as Kyushu rushes back to Earth in order to bring warning of this perceived impending threat. As our final scene is, Wyn and Frakes and Kreesar all like sort of telepathically communicating with each other in a really creepy fashion down in the brig. And so let's do the closing log, and then we'll take a look at we did pull it out of the fire in terms of getting more successes than failures. This was definitely the closest yet, and we ended up with 5 failures against 10 successes. But yeah, we'll do some milestone leveling up for Wyn, and then just a quick review for the next mission. Although I largely know what that's going to be, and then we'll wrap it up. So let's just do the closing log here. We are in the brig, yet we are free. The knowledge of the Ogopa bring us is a great gift, and in time the captain and all of Starfleet will see that. We wait the arrival of the Awami, then all will be revealed. All right, so let's see here. We have 2 values that we need to generate, and we can also... Okay, so then we're also milestoning it up, and I know exactly what I'm doing there, which is I'm increasing my command, which honestly makes sense. I was leaning on that a lot this mission, so it makes sense that it would go up. So that makes it a 3. I almost want to keep pushing that, make it a 4 next time, which would be pretty cool. Okay, but other than that, I think really we just have values. So let's see here. Now there's a values table in the character creation section, I believe. Values matrix. Yeah, there we go. Okay. I've found that rolling randomly on this table has worked pretty well for me up until this point. But let's just take a quick skim of what we've got here and see if anything jumps out in terms of like the experiences that Wyn went through this mission. Let's see. We are all connected despite being worlds apart. I like that one. We are all connected despite being worlds apart. Okay. And let's see here. This one's interesting. You must walk barefoot in the dirt to really understand a world. I like that. The other one is exploration is the blood that fills my veins. I like that too. I'm going to go with that one. Okay. Exploration is the blood that fills my veins. Okay. Cool beans. So, yeah, that is Visions of Futures Past Part 1. So, for Part 2, let's see here. Like I say, I've got a pretty good idea of, what I want to do. It's going to be an Earth side mission. And let's see here. So, let's see. Generating mission types. Okay. I think yeah, Starfleet JAG has its own thing. Okay, so let's get out our new mission worksheet here. And unless I ran out. Do I need more? Oh no, there's one. Okay. I'm running low though. Alright, so it is a Starfleet JAG mission. And let's look at the table here. Advise Starfleet on enemy species. There's a possibility there. Defend fellow crew member in alien court. Defend Starfleet officer in court. Okay, there's some cool ones here. Let's see. Prosecute errant captain. Serve on court-martial case. Transport JAG to court hearing. Uncover tainted evidence. I like advise Starfleet on enemy species, because I think that's what it's going to turn out to be. But we also do need to do an actual court-martial. So I'll just put a note in for that. Court-martial. Alright, themes and incidents. Let's see how we can complicate all this. Incident. 17. Transform, again. I mean, that makes sense. Yeah. So, incident, transform. We're carrying that forward from this part 1. Theme, however, is a 16. Spatial rift. Oh, no. I've had enough of that. All right. Get it away. Sentient machine. Interesting. There's some crazy shit on this theme table. I've never actually read through the thing. Like energy being, exploding planet. Of course, we had living ship, or did we? Well, anyway. quarantine zone. Quarantine zone, I like that. Let's go with theme quarantine zone. Yeah. Sentient machine. Unknown life form. Yeah. No, that's fine. That's fine. I want this one to be a little more down to earth. Advantages is a 16 again. Historic precedent. Drawing upon past mission logs helps inform the crew as to how to best handle the situation. Oh, wait, no. I have to roll odds and evens. That's right. Hold on. All right. So, geez, I rolled another 16 on my other d20. Good lord. All right. So that is an advantage. And I rolled a 16. So yeah, we'll just stick with that roll. All right. So historic precedent. Drawing upon past mission logs helps inform the crew as to how to best handle the situation. Interesting. So maybe something like with the Borg, right? It's like, hey, this is just like how the Borg wanted to assimilate us. What's the big idea? All right. Okay, so encounters. Use the encounters probability matrix to really make your mission one of a kind. Okay, so let's see here. I mean, some of these just don't fit, you know. So let's see. Inhabited planet. Okay, that's something else. Subspace, different reality or time. Interesting. I don't know if any of these really fit, honestly. Yeah. No, these don't really fit. That's fine. So, yeah, I think we kind of have an idea of what we want to do here. So, I don't know if there's really any need to go further than that at the moment. And yeah. I think we're okay for right now. I'll page through some of these matrices before the next session, though, and just see if there's anything else might be fun, you know. So yeah, I think that's about it. So we've got. So the Agope are still going to want to transform the peoples of Earth. We've got a quarantine zone. We've got JAG involved. We've got to advise Starfleet on this alien species. We're going to have a court-martial. It's going to be great. We're going to have a great time. And then of course, the funnest part is dealing with the fallout of all of this. So we'll just see how it goes next time. Until then.